Judge Merchan from Donald Trump just ruled that I, the Republican candidate for president, and leading in the polls, am still under a gag order concerning very important things which must be brought to light.
Kamala Harris wants to be in charge of the entire U.S. economy, but neither she nor her running mate is the beauty, isn't he? He signed a bill. He wants tampons in boys' bathrooms. I don't think so. This November, voters are going to give radical liberal Kamala Harris the opportunity to try something new, a real job in the private sector for the first time in her life.
The gagging will continue. Judge Juan Merchan came out, issued another order extending the puppy all the way through the 2024 election, of course, because why should Trump be allowed to have his free speech as an American citizen, as a presidential candidate? Why should we have free speech, being allowed to hear from the presidential candidate, our right to receive information from somebody who's actually running? All of those things can be damned because Judge Merchan doesn't care. He wants you to not know anything about his corrupt family and daughter. Says Judge Merchan from Donald Trump just ruled that I, the Republican candidate for president, and leading in the polls, am still under a gag order concerning very important things which must be brought to light, like the judge donating to Biden, the judge's daughter working for Biden, Kamala Harris, the judge's daughter creating content celebrating Trump being indicted by her daddy's court. I am not allowed to answer reporters' questions, says Trump. Can you believe this? The New York courts refuse to act. This is happening right before voting begins on September 6th. Suppression and manipulation of the vote is exactly what this is. It's voter interference happening right now. It's been happening for years since they indicted him and beyond. But this is the real fascist stuff, the old Soviet Union, and get ready for them to put him in prison or jail. So much to say, I'm not allowed to say it. Must get the U.S. Supreme Court involved. New York is trying to steal the election. Many of them are. All right, Colorado tried to steal it by throwing him off the ballot. Maine tried to steal it by throwing him off the ballot. Georgia tried to steal it, is trying to steal it by indicting him. Arizona's doing the same thing. We have Griswold, Bellows. We have Jocelyn Benson in Michigan, who is trying to create a presumption of validity for signatures so that you don't have to actually check the signatures. Okay, it's constant. Machines are garbage. They're letting in illegal aliens all over the place. Many of them will vote. The ones who aren't going to go vote as non-citizens, they're trying to make actual citizens so that they can vote hand over fist. So it's all attacks on the table, time from the Democrats. And Judge Merchan is going to continue the big charade. Here's what he said in his decision and order. He says, all right, here, responding to Trump and his motion for another recusal. He says, on May 31st, not too long ago, Trump filed a notice of a motion to seek my recusal. And in the motion, he said that we had a political and financial interest because this judge's daughter worked for Kamala and Joe, saying that it may result into a benefit to the court's family member, which is the judge's daughter. Now, before Trump filed this motion, the court had already written to the Judicial Ethics Committee to get a formal opinion, and they told me, you're fine. They're like, no, it's fine. Just make sure you put him in jail, though. And so they say, we already sent you a copy of that advisory opinion. So the judge says, I've got cover. I just talked to another, corrupt New York entity, and then they just decided that you're great. As long as you're prosecuting Trump, you can do whatever the hell you want. Ask Tish James. Ask Fani Willis. They don't care. You can grift away $700,000 to your lover, and no one cares in Georgia. They're like, yeah, you know what? We're going to vote for her again. On April 3rd, Trump filed a second motion seeking this court's recusal, raising no new facts or law. They again said, well, now we know that your daughter is going to be making a lot of money from this. She's posting Facebook ads celebrating Trump's indictment. The second motion for recusal was also denied from the bench before. On May 30th, we had a verdict, a unanimous verdict, 34 counts guilty. Sentencing's coming up very soon. It says Trump didn't file any post-verdict motions, and on July 31st, he filed this motion for recusal. Now, he did not seek leave for this, and so he justifies this motion. So he's kind of saying, well, this is not very timely, but it's because of changed circumstances. Obviously, the changed circumstance is Kamala got slotted in for Joe. So Trump appears to present two arguments in this motion. Now, although not entirely clear, they say Trump first argues that the order is unjust and unconstitutional. The argument does not merit discussion because I don't want to talk about it. Rather, it would appear to be nothing more than an attempt to air grievances. Now, Trump has litigated this before, and the court did modify the order over the people's objections. They allowed them to talk a little bit about this after the case was over, right? He loosened it up a little bit. However, aside from this court's own modification, the order has remained undisturbed, and therefore, there's no way it's unconstitutional because the higher level courts in New York, which are also as tedious as you can get, say the same thing. So Trump's second argument is that the alleged relationship between Kamala and Lauren Merchan, the judge's daughter, warrants recusal because the daughter worked for Kamala and made money working for Kamala. The court notes that this same argument was already made agreed. Yeah, you already said that we worked for Joe. She worked for Joe. But Trump contends this is even more egregious because now Kamala's the nominee. But the people's position is that the motion is vexatious and it's frivolous, says Bragg. And so the court says, I'm not even going to repeat myself, okay? I'm not going to repeat the same thing I said before. It suffices to say you've had due process and you're just repeating stale and unsubstantiated claims. Says, counsel has been warned repeatedly that advocacy does not come at the expense of professional responsibility. So basically the judge is saying, if you keep filing this, even though you've been denied, you're going to be in violation of your ethical responsibilities. Maybe we'll file a bar complaint, come after your license. With these fundamental principles in mind, the court now reiterates for the third time, which should be already clear, innuendo and mischaracterizations do not a conflict create. No, your daughter working for Kamala and Joe does. And you donating to Joe did. Donated twice, those spite donations, right? The worst. On the facts before us, we conclude that the judge's impartiality cannot reasonably be questioned based upon this, which is the advisory opinion. Now, as has been the standard throughout the pendency of this case, this court will continue to base its rulings on the law, and Trump has provided nothing new. And so therefore, since you're repeating yourself, this is rife with inaccuracies and unsubstantiated claims. Trump's motion is again denied. Judge Merchan doesn't want Trump to talk about his daughter's relationship with Kamala Harris or the daughter's relationship with Joe Biden or the fact that Juan Merchan donated to Joe Biden. None of this stuff about what the daughter said on podcasts about how the judge doesn't like Trump posting on X. At the time, it was Twitter. All of these biases Trump can't talk about because they're trying to rig the narrative in their favor, and seems like they're in support of Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris is terrible. Trump was talking about her experience in the private sector and how she's been a part of an administration that's wrecked our economy. Here's what that sounded like.
Kamala Harris wants to be in charge of the entire U.S. economy, but neither she nor her running mate is the beauty, isn't he? He signed a bill. He wants tampons in boys' bathrooms. I don't think so. But they've never held a private sector job in their entire professional careers, and it's no wonder they're both socialists. They're actually beyond socialists. I think they skipped over socialists. That's why I think when people find out, because you don't know who these people are, I think when people find out who they are, I personally don't think they can do well in the election. They've destroyed this country. What they've done, when you look at San Francisco, what happened to, and she was the one that started it years ago. She was district attorney. Then she was the attorney general of the state of California. California is a disaster now. Now, Gavin Newsom hasn't helped very much, but it's a disaster. She was the one. This November, voters are going to give radical liberal Kamala Harris the opportunity to try something new, a real job in the private sector for the first time in her life.
That'd be good. Yeah, that'd be good. Bye, Kamala. Go get a real job. All right. See you later. So that is the update out of New York, and we'll see. I'm sure Trump will appeal this again. It'll go up to the Court of Appeals in New York, and they'll not do anything about it. And we'll see if it goes up from there. But that's Trump, and the gag shall continue. And my friends, thank you for subscribing. We're going to continue to cover this case wherever it is you're watching it. We'd love to make sure you come on back. Thank you so much for sharing this with a friend or family member so that they can come over and join us as this case continues, because we've got sentencing coming up very soon in September, and we're wondering whether they're going to imprison Trump.